Hello and welcome to the Blue Pencil Sessions. I'm Eileen. I'm here with my colleague Donna, and we're taking a look at an opening of a short story by Tracy. So she tells us it's going to be a horror story, and I can believe it because there's some bad stuff happening right off the get-go. And I'm actually going to say that I think that's one of the strengths is, and also something to keep in mind when writing a short story, is that Tracy drops us right into it. So things start happening basically right from the get-go. And there's something clearly off, right? There's this idea of metal on metal, nails on a chalkboard. We know something is going to happen. So that sets us up. There's a couple of small things. So there are a couple of echoes. So you use, for example, however, twice in that first paragraph. And there's another one later. And you had a tiny little bump on some words as well.
Well, first I want to,
Stephen King hates.
well, I want to start with, I loved, going back to the opening, I loved that he almost missed the whimpering sound behind him. Oh, actually, okay, so wait, this is one thing. With his eyes focused on the happenings in front of him, he almost missed the whimpering sound behind him. One thing that, as soon as I read the whimpering sound behind him, which I loved, I wanted the word happenings to be something that I could see because I could hear the whimpering sound. So his eyes focused on, I don't know what the right word is, but if it were something that were more concrete that I could actually picture in my mind, I love that contrast of like seeing something and almost not hearing that whimpering behind me. So anyway, it is a strong start. I'm echoing Eileen. But that to me was one of those things I thought, oh, it would be even creepier. The one thing that did jump out at me that I think is a pretty easy fix are finding your adverbs and then changing your adverbs to interestinger verbs. Because there are, at a certain point, I wasn't noticing them, and then all of a sudden I noticed it. I think it was quickly. The air had quickly become oppressive and thick. And that adverb made me start to notice the adverbs, and then I noticed the adverbs. Just me.
Stephen King has trained us. And it doesn't mean Stephen King would say you have to get rid of all adverbs. I won't say that, but I would say there is some benefits to trimming. I think we both had this exact same bump, which is, I think, the area that you want to think about, Tracy, which is, and not ruining it for everyone else, he hears this whimpering behind him, he sees his dog, and then all of a sudden there's basically an explosion. There's a great moment where he's looking and worried about his dog, which I really liked that emotion that's happening in there. And let's be honest, I'm so glad you didn't kill the dog because I never could forgive you for that, maybe, but it would be hard. And I think you're trying to show how calm he is. And in fact, not only has his house exploded, which is bad, but there is this sense that he's possibly been transported into some other kind of world. Something has definitely happened. There's this red dust, which I think is creepy. And it doesn't sound like it is his neighborhood outside. Something very big has happened. And for me, I either need a couple more lines to tell me that somehow that this is expected, or that because he is not at all shocked. So you do have this one aside where it talks about, you know, he wasn't the emotive type. He'd grown up in a tough household and learned early emotions hurt. So there's a little bit of a side of like, this isn't a guy who's super emotional, but we're talking about the fact that his house just exploded, where I think like even the most normally calm, non-emotive people would be losing their mind. So it took me a little bit out of the story because I didn't understand his reaction to what's happened. For you, Donna?
Yeah, and I agree. And we also do see that he has some emotion because he's really emotional about his dog. Like you're using words like panic, and I don't know what one of the other ones. He sobbed when he realized that his dog was fine, that Seth was fine. So we do know that he does have emotion and he can be emotional. And then this line, which I don't know if it speaks to emotion, but it speaks to feeling, which I loved. The strained silence stretched out and Jake felt himself stretching with it. I loved that.
That was a great line.
So to me that, like, if you feel that, it's like he does have emotion and feelings. So I did bump on the fact that he was so blasé. And I know he's supposed to be a pragmatic guy, but you kind of wanted him to have some reaction to the fact that he's living, like he just survived an explosion.
again, this is a short story, so it's always not clear to me where exactly we're going to go with this yet. So you may want him to have that reaction, but just to know that the reader's going to bump on it. And I would fairly quickly then have some kind of explanation that's happening after this, whether,
or no, like I know like first responders talk about when someone goes into shock.
Yeah.
Like, so he could be like, if rather than having it explain that he's not an emotive guy, like if he goes into shock, that to me would be believable. Because, you know, it's like, okay, my dog's alive. And now it's like, what the heck has just gone on? And then you're, so
but then I want the heck emotion, not just a calm, like, yep, okay, there was this explosion. Oh, shit happens. Like I want him to have that strong reaction to it. That's what I'm looking for. So, or if he's not going to have it, then I want to understand, like, either, like, is this a military guy where it's like, yep, things blow up. Like, what's happening, to just give us a tiny bit more into that. But I think it's a really fun opening for a short story. And I definitely would have been pulled in, and the dog better make it all the way to the end. Just saying. All right. And until then, if you want to show us a short story, we'd love to take a look at it. We'll be having some changes coming to the Blue Pencil session, so stay tuned for those. And until then, we look forward to seeing you guys around the Academy. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Tracy.